The topos of Im Moon-sik's iconic 1957 photograph, Early Summer, is apparently clear. The weight of traditional Korean cultural practice is giving way to the lightness of Western lifestyle. The keenness of what Barthes called the photo's punctum, that is, the deeply affective register of an image, is driven home by the seeming distress that passes on the face of the woman in the foreground. She is nearest to us, but in the burgeoning consumer culture epitomized in the scene's Western goods stores, she has already faded. The ascendant icon now is the almost ethereal figure of the Lady of Leisure, protected from the sun by her parasol, embedded in the newly scrubbed city streets. We can note the way that the pattern dresses echo the street's tiling. Early Summer presents us with an emblem of Americanization, a compressed rendering of the classic tropes, replete with gender and class antagonisms of cultural imperialism. But in fact, the image's discursive coordinates are far from obvious. The intrusion of Western clothing, so often embodied, but rarely so artfully, in precisely this juxtaposition of women's figures, is of course a ceaselessly deployed sign of cultural loss and transformation. As such, on those terms alone, the scene is difficult to date. That is, until we look with some care at the clothes themselves and see not simply the generic yangjang, hanbok dichotomy, but rather the bold floral prints and flared lines of the young women's dresses. To even an amateur student of fashion flows, these styles follow lines of adoption from American fashions of the 1950s, and therein to the vast apparatus of post-war occupation and Cold War containment. The image's studium, Barthes' complementary term for the socio-cultural import of pictures, is not defined without this sense of clothing's timeliness. In this respect, the clothing's historicity is itself the photo's studium. But the iconography's coding is not the only material for analysis. Rather, it is the woman in the foreground, in particular her own clothes, that begs a closer look. For, of course, her hanbok is not some timeless traditional vestment, but rather the subject of tremendous social, cultural, and political investment, regulation, and even caprice. One can think, of course, of the radical changes mandated in the 1894 Kabul reforms, that frantic attempt to mark out a bulwark of Korean modernity, staked in part on a more enlightened system of dress. But more germane here is the way hanbok were charged with heterogeneous interest and meaning throughout the post-war era. The foregrounded woman's early summer dress is translucent and light, likely stitched of newly developed nylon, and the jagori is short. Its line is economic, and its ornamentation is almost non-existent. This is an irreducible product of modern capital and its demand for efficiency.